Should we have a bit of politics for you this morning? Talk to the Shadow Minister for Crime, Policing and Fire, Matt Vickers. Good morning. Good morning. It's nice to see you this morning. Can we talk Chagos?
Yes, of course we can.
Because this is very confusing. But also, why are you coming up with a figure? The Prime Minister says it's going to cost £3.4 billion. You're saying it's going to cost 10 times that. But you're tying in inflation with that figure, which doesn't make any sense.
It's in £101 million a year over 99 years. That's a hell of a lot more than 3.4 billion. But we've heard several numbers from the government on this. This is the nearest guesstimate that's been come to. But yeah, 101 million, whatever it is, it's the wrong deal. It's a deal that shouldn't be going ahead. We're literally giving something back and then paying to lease a military base. It's insane. £101 million a year. Imagine what you could be doing with that money.
But Mr. Vickers, didn't the Tories start these negotiations? Didn't you open this can of worms to start with?
Not at all. You have
it started under the Foreign Secretary Liz Truss.
We have dialogues with countries across the globe who ask lots of things at lots of times. We would never have gone in with this. It was just not a thing. It's a bad deal for Britain. When Labour negotiates, Britain loses. We've seen it with Chagos, this absolutely ridiculous deal that is going to cost the taxpayers of the UK a fortune. We've seen it with the EU negotiations that are underway. We've seen it with the India trade deal that's seen British companies paying British workers being taxed to the eyeballs whilst Indian workers are getting tax breaks. It is utter chaos. When Labour negotiates, Britain loses. I think Starmer just finds itself on the wrong end of the negotiating table. It's a disaster.
Why then, with all of this, if it's such a disaster, does Secretary of State Marco Rubio say that this agrees a long-term, stable and effective operation of the joint facility at Diego Garcia? Trump likes it.
There might be lots of views from different parts of the world who have lots of different interests. This deal is not in Britain's interests at all. It's not in the interests of taxpayers who are going to be forking up for this ridiculous sum of money.
What do you make of Sir Keir Starmer when defending this deal to the press yesterday, saying, look, he didn't have a choice. The choice was you have a deal or you don't have a base.
He probably would say the same thing about his new relationship with the EU and the difficulties that he's causing for farmers when he's handing over, we're now becoming subject to more EU law. We're becoming, we're handing more control back to the European Court of Justice. We're seeing more British taxpayers' money go to the EU. All these things are choices. That guy's put behind number 10 to make choices. This is the wrong choice. It's a bad deal for Britain.
But it's not a choice if he says there is a long-standing government legal assessment, we don't know how long-standing, that if this went to the next level of court, which would be a binding judgment, we would lose that.
It is a negotiation. It is a deal. It is a bad deal. No court anywhere has told him that he needs to hand over £101 million every year for the next 99 years. No one's told him that. He should be fighting for Britain's interests.
Claire, let's have a look at the Chagos deal, shall we? Front page of the Times.
I mean, it's such a happy Friday for anybody that supports the Labour Party right now, isn't it? This is Sir Keir Starmer handing over the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, which is going to cost us, the taxpayer, an inordinate amount of money over the next 99 years. Why he has gone through with this is
There must be a reason. I mean, what was he saying yesterday about this? If they didn't do this deal, it would end up going to court and they would lose it.
But that's the point about it. I mean...
Because I've never heard that argument before.
Well, no, it's been around. I mean, what we've had two judgments against us already, one from the International Court of Justice, one from the UN General Assembly. Now, they were advisory, so we didn't have to comply with them. The next stage would be, it would go to the UN Convention on the Sea. That would be legally binding. And the problem there is if Mauritius is actually aligned with China, if international law said that we could not be there, that would mean that China could move in and have international law on their side.
But why? But Mauritius is further away from the Chagos Islands than we are.
Well, no, I mean, we're 6,000 miles away. I mean, it's about 1,000 miles to
But
Mauritius.
it's never been Mauritius.
Exactly. They've never had a claim on the Chagos Islands. So to think that it's somehow rightfully theirs is for the birds. But it's the amount of money...
It's for the courts. I mean, it is for the courts to decide who actually should own them.
The amount of money that is going to be handed over to Mauritius is actually obscene. When you start digging down into the figures, £45 million a year for 25 years to support projects for economic development in Mauritius.
But this is a deal.
Okay,
this is like renting a house. This is a deal to actually lease
we can freeze
a
our
military
own
base.
pensioners, but we can pay for the Mauritian economy to be bumped up.
Yeah, but this is a deal to keep
where's that coming
Diego
from?
Garcia as a military base.
Where's the money coming from? Because all we keep hearing from the Chancellor is that there's some enormous £22 billion black hole, you know, the one that we've always heard
And
about.
we're forking out now. I mean, all right, we're not paying all this money up front. It's over 100 years. Get that? But it's £2 million a week. I mean, by his conservative figures.
Yes, I know, but because we're leasing then a military base. And I mean, the figures seem to be all over the place, in fairness, that the Telegraph are reporting a £30 billion cost. It looks as if that's a kind of calculation on the back of a fag packet.
Well, no,
but whatever the cost is, we're renting something.
Inflation at 2% for 100 years.
Yeah.
That's what that is. And the other programmes that Claire's spoken about there.
Yeah, but I mean, at the moment we're talking about 100 million. But the figure is not so much important. It's the principle that if we want to retain that military base, this is the way to do it. We are renting it. It is like renting a house or something like that. So on the basis of that, we've got to pay some money out.
All right. We shall leave it there, you two. Never known to agree on much, you two. Catherine Forster, as you know, is here. I mean, look, the monies make no sense on this, whether it works out 101 million, which is 10 billion, or 3.4 billion, or 34 billion, as the Conservatives are saying. None of it makes any sense, apart from the fact that we know it's a lot of money when we haven't got any.
It's a lot of money, and I was at that press conference. I had a question for GB News, and I said, how is it? What do you say to people who can't understand why you can find 100 million a year, but you can't find the money to support disabilities? We know those welfare cuts are coming. And the Prime Minister said, my first duty as Prime Minister is to keep the country safe. Now, this is very contentious, but a couple of points. First of all, we are handing sovereignty to Mauritius. We've got this hugely important US-UK military base, Diego Garcia. Mauritius was a British colony, got independence in 1965. At that time, Mauritius and the Chagos Islands were within one sort of administrative district, if you like. But Mauritius never owned the Chagos Islands. Mauritius have been fighting for decades to get them. There was an international ruling by the International Court of Justice back in 2019, I think, saying that Mauritius should be granted sovereignty. It was advisory, but the government is insisting they've had no choice to do this deal because they say there were about to be former binding legal judgments, then they would be in breach of international law, and then things that they currently use on the base that are essential, like satellite communications, would stop working. So the government's line is, we have absolutely no choice to keep this base running, and it's geostrategically very, very important. They've got no choice. On the money, I spent a long time with people from Number 10, straight after the press conference, with other journalists, trying to get our head round how 100 million a year adds up to what the Prime Minister says is 3.4 billion total, because 100 million a year, 100 years, clearly is 10 billion. It's very unclear, but the Prime Minister stressed, he said, look, this is less than the cost of operating one aircraft carrier for a year, not even including the planes. So they're saying within the scheme of the defence budget, this is not a lot of money, but it's a difficult line to take, isn't it, at the moment?
And the second part of your question was about what the Chagosians make of all of this, and we've just seen pictures on the screen now. I mean, they want to be British, it would seem.
They are incredibly upset. I was also at the Royal Courts of Justice for that, and I was in the room. They feel that they have been abandoned and treated appallingly yet again, as they were when we got this military base, just booted them off the island. They are absolutely appalled. They were alleging that the government was basically breaking the law by breaching their human rights. The judge did not find in favour of them, however, and I did think, though, yesterday morning it was quite ironic. The Prime Minister was a big human rights lawyer, and, these people alleging that the government is breaching human rights.
Heck, it just seems like a mess, but maybe we'll get to the bottom of it at some point. For now, Catherine, thank you.
Thanks, Catherine.